Hey Leute, hier ist der Mac on a PlayStation 5 somewhere in Europe. Obviously, this is TacticAngel. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be taking another look at the Saving Transylvania event. Obviously, this came out a couple of years ago, and now we're back to watch Mark, aka White. I would say he is my good German friend. He might refer to me as ein Kollege. But anyway, we are going to talk a little bit about the Saving Transylvania event. I made an event guide for this a couple years ago. I think for the most part it holds up. I actually watched it myself to try to remember what in the world I was supposed to do about this. And there are a couple things I would change. I'm going to go ahead and put what I think is kind of the optimum build up on the screen for each of these. Obviously, the first time we ran through the event, there were no legendary skills, so maybe that changes something a little bit. The general thing that you want to do is do whatever your job is for the particular class. If you're a battleship, that is to stay as close to the Transylvania as possible, to get between it and things that want to shoot at it, and to take out these catapults. Pretty easy. Mark's going to show us exactly how that's done. We're also going to talk about some other things that he does here that is a really good job. We actually kind of came up with this, I want to say, together. I'm at least in the background playing moderately okay, I think. If you are the cruiser, which is what I'm playing, you're going to want to set everything on fire as often as possible, and you're also going to want to assist the battleship in its duties, though you are kind of the backup for shooting towers, for spotting towers, and for everything else, pretty much. Last but not least, if you are the destroyer, your job is to torpedo everything. I would not really worry about your guns at all. And I'd use a build kind of like that. In any case, what you see Mark here doing is he is trying to pay as much attention as possible to shooting these catapults. Arguably, this is the member of the team who has probably the least obvious job among the several ships, because a battleship player who plays well will not score well. And a lot of people will go into this game and they think they're supposed to do damage. And if you are a battleship player, doing damage, at least to ships, is not the primary purpose for your existence. It is actually, as I put down on that list, kind of third place. Also with us, I should mention, you can see him putting up a smoke screen there, is our friend Black Yamato. And he will be doing probably a fantastic job in the Blade, the destroyer there. He is a fantastic player, and I would watch out for him if you come across him in a game, because you're probably going to lose. He's it hasn't happened to me yet, but it's just a matter of time. Now you will notice the way that Mark is nestled up against the front of the Transylvania. This is an intentional thing. As it turns out, we kind of talked about the general idea of ramming the Transylvania, or the Rasputin, in my first video on this, which obviously came out like 2 years ago. I'm really happy to see that we got this game mode back, because it's fun to do, and certainly playing it a few times every couple of years is not going to wear out its welcome. Also, some folks made a pretty decent video about it, and it took a lot of hours, so anything to get people to watch it again is nice. Now, perhaps ideally, Mark would be on the other side of the Transylvania doing exactly the same thing. The rudder shift on this thing is so slow that sometimes you can't help it, and it's possible he's playing the long game because this is going to really work out for him. But as you can see, when we were looking at the Zikasa that is coming in, first of all, the Zikasa is probably going to shoot at the ship that's closest to it. So in this case, being in front of the Transylvania is a generally good idea. It's not a bad idea to have 2 people in the circle. If you have 5 people in the circle, it tends to move kind of fast and makes the battleship's job a little hard. So I think in my first video, I suggested everybody stick with it. It's not a super terrible idea, particularly since most people aren't going to have watched a video and are probably going to be wandering off to do all sorts of frustrating things. But Mark is currently in a fantastic position for the next set of ships to spawn. They will spawn to our right here. And you can see Black Yamato is going out in front of us and kind of anticipating that that's going to happen. He has blind launched some torpedoes because he is that confident in where they're going to pop up. I don't think he gets lucky here, but he's going to probably do a better job when the Rasputin pops up. And this is kind of perfect positioning against the Zikasas. If the Zikasa wanted to shoot the Transylvania, they're going to have to go through Mark, and that just is not how the game engine works. I mean, maybe there's certain parts of the ship that he doesn't completely cover up, but just like anybody trying to cover up the plate in baseball, for those of you guys who are not maybe as familiar with that sport, or for our Canadian friends, like a goalie. I guess that also works for soccer, but soccer goalie doesn't cover up very much of the goal at all, does he? But essentially, Mark is body blocking. And this does 2 things. First of all, it does slow down the Transylvania. I have seen people do considerable effort to kind of slow down the Transylvania with several ships. I have yet to see the Transylvania accidentally stopped by having to ram too many people. I have seen it rammed far enough off course that you kind of have to nudge it in the other direction to get it to go again. But that was not specifically the problem with that run. It might have been the other people who wandered off to die. But essentially, this is the whole thing, just to kind of update what I think the builds are supposed to be, and also so that you can see a master at this game showing us how it's done in the most thankless position in all of this particular event. Playing the Jackal, basically trying to body block for the Transylvania. Now, as we're coming on the final stretch of this, it gets a little bit more important overall, because if he can get in front of it, and in this case you'd probably usually want to be on the other side, just because the Rasputin tends to drive off to the right hand side of the screen, and you have a better chance of body blocking for it if you can get in front of it that way. Mark is going to do his level best here to at least cover him up as best as possible. And also, since the Rasputin tends to drive towards you, the slower you make the Transylvania, the longer it takes for the actual Rasputin to get into this circle. Because obviously, probably the 2 hardest stars to get, and certainly the 2 hardest stars to get together, are that the Transylvania never stops, and that it arrives with 50% or more HP. And so, in this case, it can go really, really slow, and as you can see, Mark is has basically blocked all of the shots into the Transylvania. He actually does a really fun 360 there to show you. I'm not sure if that served any other purpose. But anyway, you can kind of see in the background, Black Yamato is doing a good job here in terms of he pre-torpedoed where he knew the Rasputin was going to be. It's right between those two spires, so it's not all that difficult to do. You can see I am switching my fire back and forth between a couple of different targets. That is just to burn the damage control of each of these ships. The fires that I get are good for damage for the cruiser, and obviously it's even more important when you get those permafloods from the slew of torpedoes that you see coming in. Now we have a pretty good set of ships here. Unfortunately, we lose our second battleship. That said, he did eat up some shots, and Mark is still in good position here. He is moving in front of the Transylvania, but he's still body blocking the Rasputin. And actually the Rasputin is going to shoot him now because he is the closest battleship. He managed to hold back the Transylvania enough, and you can see, there you go. He's going to end with 85-90% of his health. And if I were on another channel, I would say that's how it's done. That's how it's done. So thank you, Mark, for sending this to me. I was actually obviously in this party, and you'll see the results at the end. And always keep in mind when you're looking at those that a good battleship probably shouldn't score very well. And Mark doesn't score very well, and he was a very good battleship here. Thanks also to Black Yamato, who plays a fantastic destroyer, cruiser, battleship, anything you really need. If you would like to follow Mark, I have left a link to his channel down in the description. I will point out, since you probably can't read anything on the screen, his console is not bugged. He does in fact speak a different language. If you can read it, then you probably know exactly what he does. He is a German, and just a fantastic player, a good guy, and my good German colleague / buddy or whatever. So anyway, that should pretty much finish off this run for saving the Transylvania. Hopefully this little update was fun to watch. Make sure to give Mark's channel a look if you don't mind not understanding anything, or if you understand anything that's written on the screen. And as always, I do hope to see you on the next one.